All right, baseball fans, video game fans, simulation fans, welcome to another edition of Road to Release. I'm Dr. Dynastic, and today we're here with the Director of Development right now for the Out of the Park Developments team. We're counting down Road to Release, Out of the Park 26, Matt Arnold. Matt, thanks for joining us. I know you're joining me from overseas, but the picture and sound are crystal clear.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm always happy to come on and spread some news and spread some feature work.
Well, you've been busy. Your team has been busy, so we're going to cover a lot of bases here today. I'd be remiss if I didn't just lead off with my favorite new feature, and kind of like a surprise feature, one that I didn't realize I needed until I saw it. And that's the dynamic scoreboard. And maybe you can best describe what that is and why it's so important to the immersion of Out of the Park 26.
Yeah, so the dynamic scoreboards, I mean, they really came together very nicely. I mean, I have to give lots of credit to Joran, our 3D developer, who went through the ballparks and did his magic that lets the scoreboards come to life. And I mean, really, it's having the actual the scoreboards in game when you're watching or playing out a game, having them actually show you based on what the action is happening. So if you're in the sixth inning of a game, the line score up on the scoreboard will show you the runs from the first 5 innings. You know, it'll show you the lineups of the teams. It will show you, the last at bat for a player, and really it's just about having even more immersion, right? Like when you're watching a game, you're watching a game. It's like you're in the seats there.
That to me is kind of the wild part to this, is that it's one thing to kind of have that scoreboard and then that information there, but then as I've been looking closer, I've been noticing that it's different aspect ratios, different locations, different data. So ballpark to ballpark, you could have multiple dynamic scoreboards all around, leading to that immersion. Was this a high degree of difficulty, and has this been months, years in the works?
Yeah, I mean, I can't. I don't actually know how long it's been on Joran's playlist of trying to get this done, but I know he's been wanting to do this for a while. I think this is very much he just wanted to have some fun with this, and then it comes together. And yeah, I like it. I mean, it was always when you look at it, it always irks you a little bit when you watch the home run ball go out and the scoreboard is just some fixed random data from some random game from whenever we, cut the ballparks or brought the ballparks in or whatever. So being able to see the actual information is a huge boost. I mean, I will caveat a little bit in terms of the way we draw the scoreboards, the way we update them. It's unfortunately not quite as precise as these super, I don't know how many 80K jumbotron screens that you see in actual MLB ballparks. So it's not quite to that level of detail and depth and everything, but we can still fit a lot in there. And as you said, it is actually custom for each scoreboard for each ballpark. So most MLB parks, I think, generally, we have about 2 scoreboards for each park. Some only have 1, I think. And it's sort of it's the primary scoreboard that you'll see in the back that's usually got the lineups and the line scores and the big picture of the player and their last at bat or whatever. And then usually for parks, it's kind of the little small scoreboard on the side that's got, one of the lineups or the current count or the how many pitches the pitcher has thrown. And yeah, as you said, each one is custom for the size and the layout. So, if the park scoreboard is a wider one and you can fit more of the data going wide, then we'll try to fill in the gaps in that space. If it's a tall one, then it'll, stretch a few more lines of every at bat from the game, not just the last at bat for the player, for example.
Well, clearly a lot of work has gone into one of those big cosmetic features for Out of the Park, which at its core, it is a data-driven game. It's built upon realism, and it's built upon the ability for you to feel like your hands are truly on the steering wheel, and you're getting as much control as you want or as little as you may want. And one of those big things, Matt, is obviously scouting, right? I mean, that at its core is baseball. When you're running a baseball team, knowing the ratings of players, how to grade them, how they relate to other players. And this is, I think, a big feature for Out of the Park 26, scouting and risk. Can you kind of give us a closer look at that?
So I know. Like last year, we spent did a massive overhaul of the underlying ratings of everything. We obviously did not want to go through that process again this year. But you're always looking at what can be upgraded, what can be improved. And one of those aspects that's been on our radar, been on our list for a few years now is the general scouting model, the overall scouting, how it works overall. So we haven't we didn't tear it out and start from scratch or anything like that. But we did take a deep look through at essentially how a scout comes through and puts together the ratings for a player. And one thing we've always figured in the past was it got a little I don't know, it always felt a little detached from everything else in terms of you just magically get a scouting report and whether a player developed or not, it didn't really do anything. So we kind of wanted to think a little bit more about what do you see when you're looking at prospect ratings and player ratings overall nowadays? And one of the big ones we wanted to make sure to bring in was the whole sort of notion of a risk assessment of a player. So especially when you're looking at the draft or amateurs and throughout development, not everyone is the same 55 or 60, right? You might look at some guy and see, oh, he's almost there, or there's no way he's going to drop off of being close to what his potential rating shows there. And there's other people who are the scout might tell you he's got a 60 potential, or he's got an 80 bat. His bat is going to be out of the park. It's going to be he's going to be a crazy hitter, but they never really told you in the past that oh yeah, by the way, that guy, he's not really going to make it there. If everything goes perfectly, he will be an 80, but maybe not. So we really just kind of wanted to come back and yeah, make sure that scouts can actually sort of really dig in and actually tell you that.
And how will that be told to you? I mean, it's clearly through a scouting report. Is it going to be on the ratings that you're seeing on the profile? Is it going to be what they are saying in their reports? How are you going to see what they're trying to communicate to you?
Yeah, so the main one at first is you'll see it on the player page itself, the rating, the notion of scouting risk, and they'll tell you their general assessment of are they a low risk player or a high risk player. And certainly we'll go through and do some balancing on that. We'll come back, I'm sure, a little bit too and give you more details at other times. But yeah, the main one is just being able to get, even just one rating is more than enough to give you a little bit peeking into the uncertainty of that.
If you haven't already done so, you can click that link for pre-orders in the description right now. We're here with Matt Arnold getting you ready for Out of the Park 26. Remember, you get in on that pre-order, folks. You're going to get 10% off, and you're also going to get, for your perfect team, you're going to get a bonus diamond pack, bonus gold pack, and a bonus choice pack as well. So click that link in the description. Matt, let's move on to Drive for the Pennant. And there's a lot to unfold in this one, because when Drive for the Pennant came out last year, Now the Park 25, that was the first time that we have seen it. It was a way to kind of put you on the rails a little bit and experience the game, and I think it was more intended. It felt like it was more intended for people who were new to the game. But honestly, I felt as a veteran of the game for 20 something years, I enjoyed the game on a whole different level. So before we talk about what's different this year, what's new to Drive for the Pennant mode, would you just be able to explain for the folks at home what Drive for the Pennant is in Out of the Park?
I mean, that's unfortunately last year it was one of those things that just we tried, but it just couldn't quite make it in there right at the start, right? So certainly a lot of people might not be that familiar with it or might not have gone through it too much. But the key point to it is that it's a mode where you can, I mean, I don't like to say simplify, but it's a mode where you focus your view of the team on the parts that really matter. So it's still the same game. It puts you in the driver's seat. You can still do, all the main things that you want to do. But it jumps you from action to action. So you kind of skip a little bit of the mundane of the game. We do simplify a few pieces in there. A lot of trading is more of your assistant will kind of go out and give you some offers and you can kind of decide on the last piece of the offer, you know, and on some of that. And then the other big, I mean, honestly, the most fun part of it, not that I'm gonna, I'm not gonna. The most fun is where it jumps you right into the games,
Right?
right? You sim through, like 3 days later, it'll pop up and say your team is down by one in the eighth inning. Like, is it time to change pitchers here? Like, should you pinch hit in this spot here? Like, you're going for a shutout. Can you finish the job? And it picks those key points and really wants to, it puts you in the seat to say, can you do it now? And it's not just like, oh, here's a great strategic decision. It's like I mean, I got a shutout going. I want to watch the last inning of a shutout, right? Like,
Yeah, that's the drama of it. I think that's one of the things where if you didn't take advantage of it for Out of the Park 25, I highly recommend you check it out because sometimes we're doing that simulation of a season, and some of us play game by game, inning by inning. But chances are, a lot of us, like myself, we like to kind of sim 1 week at a time, 1 month at a time, and this kind of pumps the brake and says, "Whoa, hold on, you want to see something? I know you're on the interstate right now, but you want to see what's on the side here right now." So you'll get like a recap where it's like, "Oh, my guy threw a one hitter." And then now it's like, hey, your pitcher has a no hitter in the eighth inning. Do you want to jump in and watch this game, basically, make a key decision? And you do.
no.
So now, with all that being said, Matt, for last year, Out of the Park 25, that was for last season. In other words, you were playing the current season. You could play as what I did with our simulation on our stream was we played as the Cincinnati Reds for 2024. Now what we can do is now it's historical. Now we don't have to just do or get to do the Cincinnati Reds of 2024. Now we can go back 4 decades or so. We can go to the big red machine of the 1970s and we can jump into those as well. Can you show us a little bit how that's going to look when you play historical season replays in Drive for the Pennant?
Yeah, so I mean, it's I don't, at a basic level, it is you can do it for any season, any team you want in history, right? And I mean, the real big thing is, I mean, that's always been, I mean, one of our biggest things, one of our best parts is the historical side of the game that we have. It's, you know, whenever I'm talking with people randomly in the street of telling them what I do, it's like, oh, I work for a baseball game, we can do this, and everyone, so, I mean, not everyone, but some people's eyes somewhat start to glaze over. And then I mention like, oh yeah, you can play any season going back to the 1800s, and then they're like, wait, what?
What?
Like they just don't understand the historical part of the game, which is a key part of everything that we do. And now being able to jump in to any season that you want in history to replay your favorite season, to replay your least favorite season. Do you want to, you know, play and see if you can, take those Expos team in 94 all the way, or, go back and play a big red machine, play a Babe Ruth season and do that. And with the Drive for the Pennant, with that, nice and quick and easy and high stakes mode,
Mm-hmm.
sort of be able to do that without sort of having to commit yourself to like, oh my God, I need to sit down and like plan a career out of this you know, and really sort of worry about that side of things. So being able to do that just off the bat is such a great avenue for just exploring a random historical piece.
Are you talking specifically with that Matt, when you're, when I love to do historical replays. But some of the options when it's like, okay, I want to do historical replay, but then it's you're going through the options menu, right? And it's like, would you like recalculation on? Would you like this on? Would you like this on? With Drive for the Pennant, you feel it kind of simplifies the experience. So it encourages you, it pushes people like, look, I'm going to nudge you a little bit and get you going on this, because it's one of the most fantastic ways to play the game is through a historical replay.
Yeah, so I mean, last year we wanted to really simplify things heavily in the historical wizard and just give you here's like a few quite nice default ways that make sense to play. The Draft of the Pennant kind of gives you another one to just sort of jump you in and get going very quickly. And then at the end of the season, once you're done the season, if you want to continue that league, we give you a couple options at the end to basically kind of be like, do you want to continue this in like the career mode way, or do you want to continue this in like the replay mode way? So, do you want to continue this with like the development engine and all of the power that the fictional, the wild, the crazy players not working out how they do, or do you want to kind of go back into the like, all right, we will recalculate everybody's ratings after the season, and you can kind of play the next season in a normal manner. So,
Matt, let's keep the historical aspect to this going here for Out of the Park 26. There are some tweaks, some improvements. What else are you looking forward to for historical immersion, data, players that you can play with? The database is growing even more so this year now, the Park 26, specifically when it comes to historical play.
Yeah, so the historical play is always on the top of our radar. We're always trying to add more things, do more things. So, we're always adding something. Like this year we've added historical pitcher splits for every major league player going back all the way. So that's something that before the pitcher splits have always been a little bit more, just sort of generic based on some profiles. So we've dug in and done a lot more on that. We've expanded the historical minor league play, so now you can go all the way back to 1901. It used to be 1915, I think. So we've added even more historical seasons, so you can go with any minor league player who's played, since, I mean, you'd say since the turn of the century, but since the turn of the last century, right? And go and play through that. And then we've also spent a good amount of time working to improve our Negro Leagues handling. So we have some new equivalency data for some of the Negro League players. So we're trying to help their ratings even more to make sure they're accurately represented based on how they are. And then along with that, that's allowed us to do a couple little other sort of, I mean, you'd say small tweaks, but sort of alternate history tweaks with the Negro League set, so that one of the examples is one of the other historical modes that we didn't talk about here already was the random debut mode,
Mm-hmm.
where the game will basically take any player from any season in history and throw them all together. So you might start up your game and have, Babe Ruth and Randy Johnson and, everybody else is thrown in, in the same initial draft pool in the same setup as you play through. And with a lot of the changes to the Negro Leagues players that we have, they can also be included in those sets as well. So,
and that's important, right?
Your
Because
game might start out, yeah.
Because, right, I mean, you think about Major League Baseball and Negro League Baseball, how for years it was considered two entirely separate things, and over the course of the last year or so now, Major League Baseball has made a concerted effort to make sure that these records, these statistics, are recognized not by themselves, but in relation to all players in baseball. And this would fall in line right with that, right?
I mean, it's always been. I mean, the more we look back on the past, the more you uncover, the more you discover just some of the absolutely fantastic names and players who are out there who just never got the chance to play, right? The Oscar Charlestons or the Cool Papa
Hmm.
Bells and so on of the past. I mean, Satchel Paige didn't make his MLB debut until, I mean, was he like 42 or something
Yeah.
like that when he made his debut or something? I forget exactly when it was, but it was, he had a whole career before he finally they let him in the door. So being able to play at least in this random debut mode and with a few other adjustments, sort of being able to incorporate them more into the historical game is a big thing that we definitely wanted to make sure we got in.
How were you able to? You talk about the equivalency as far as ratings go. I've been over the last few years. I've been very curious about specifically NEL players and looking back through Baseball Reference and other statistical databases, right? And that a lot of times, unfortunately, a lot of those records were not up to the standards of what we saw for Major League Baseball, right? Where all the details, all the logs were preserved and they were there. Were there? Can you take us a little bit inside that? How you were able to work with data, but also with just common sense as far as properly rating these players. So when they are in out of the park, what you see is what they would have done in our baseball universe.
Yeah, so most of the equivalency data we've been working with the some of the modders in the community and the members of the roster team and so on who've been putting an extra focus on all of that and put out some of their own mods in the past. So we've been grateful and thankful to be able to bring that in and use this. Uh, you know, we also allow you to sort of skip that if you just want to use the raw data and have things play as well. We're still always trying to improve how we handle some of the other equivalency data. But yeah, the big problem with them is that, I mean, every data set from 100 years ago has problems,
Hmm.
but those ones are a bigger struggle, and just the fact that it's very hard to understand, you know, what a 360 batting average means in one of these leagues, because some of these leagues have incredible talent. Some of these leagues have a wide variety of other talent bases. Sometimes you have, I mean, they weren't even in leagues, they were just in sort of, independent traveling teams. So
Yeah.
you'd have some teams that played, 40, 50, 80 games. Another team had played 20 in the season, right? Like it's impossible to sort of fully get the picture, but the more that everyone that people dig in, then you discover stuff, and then you read up more, and you can just put together the best information that you can, and try to make something that works for these players.
And we're going to see that too when we talk to Nico with Perfect Team about some more utilization of what we're going to see specifically when we're talking about Perfect Team and the Negro League. And I think, Matt, as we wrap up this interview, I think that's one of the fantastic things about Out of the Park Baseball is as with a partner, with this partnership with Major League Baseball, with the Players Association, that what you see every year is a reflection of what is going on in Major League Baseball. And so kudos to you guys, kudos to Major League Baseball working together to make sure that what we get in this game reflects where baseball is here in the year 2025. So, Matt, I know you got a lot of work to get done, and make sure that you reward this man and you reward everybody out there by pre-ordering, because we want to support this staff that does a great job. And remember, they don't take any years off, that they've been working round the clock from 25 now into 26. Get that pre-order in. The link is in the description. 10% off your pre-order. You get the Perfect Team bonuses, the Diamond Pack, the Gold Pack, the Choice Pack. You got it all, and you get a smile guarantee from Matt Arnold. Matt, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks. We build this for the fans. Our goal is always to put out the absolute best game out there, the most fun, the most exciting, the most interesting. So I always, say reach out to us, give us your ideas, give us your suggestions. We'll do what we can. And we just want to make the best game out there.
All right. Infinite Baseball Sandbox coming to your PC. Get ready here for Out of the Park 26.